And good day, people. Today we have a bit of a special one, which is just a real quick review on this 2021, so the latest Suzuki V-Strom 1050. This is generally a really good all-round bike. I also have an Africa Twin at the moment, and they're always being compared to each other. In all the reviews, if you look online, they're always comparing the Africa Twin to the V-Strom 1050. However, I am here to tell you that they're complete different bikes, and this in fact is not an adventure bike. This is basically a GSXR 1000 with knobbly tyres, comfy seat, wider bars, and more ergonomic riding position. That's how it feels to me. It's quite stiff. Compared to an Africa Twin, it's very stiff, the suspension. It's more aimed towards the road than anything else, I would say. It's obviously got knobbly tyres on this one to give it that, adventure look or feel, or some mild off-road capabilities, but just having a look at where the oil filter is, I mean, it's definitely not an adventure bike. It's obviously, I didn't know, but the engine is actually the TL1000 engine, and I did a nighttime review on this bike the other day, and I actually didn't post it because it wasn't good enough, so I'm doing this review again. But in that review I figured out mid-review that actually this is the TL1000 engine, and it's a fantastic engine. So I'd say it's way too powerful for an off-road bike. You couldn't use this engine off-road. Without traction control, it rips your arms off on the tarmac. It literally pulls your arms out your sockets almost if you're not careful. So it really does pull hard. It's a lovely bike to ride. Initially I didn't really like it compared to the Africa Twin. It's a lot lower, smaller, lower handlebar position, narrower bars, the riding position more cramped on the pegs. There's not a lot of space on the pegs compared to the Africa Twin. They're quite high up for me anyway. Also, when you ride it hard and you get it down, you can get it down quite easily, and I am regularly scraping this peg on the ground. 1 up, 2 up. It happens on both sides. Let me see if this one's done as well. Not as much as the other one, but it's still been bottoming out on low turns. So yeah, it's more of a road bike, I would say. It handles so well on the road. It's really stable, really planted. It's relatively comfortable, not as comfortable as an Africa Twin. I'll keep comparing it to the Africa Twin because that's the only thing anyone else is comparing it to. There are obviously other adventure bikes, but these are, they're always reviewing these together. So the fact that I've got an Africa Twin as well means that I'm going to be comparing it to that mostly. But yeah, I think this is 105 brake horsepower. Something like that. I can't remember the torque figures off the top of my head, but it does about 130 miles an hour flat out. It's 1038cc, not actually true 1050, 1038cc, so 38cc up on the Africa Twin, but you can tell the power difference. It's not any faster top end. In fact, the Africa Twin seems to be faster top end. I've had 135 on a slight downhill in the Africa Twin. On any downhill on this, it won't go over sort of 129, 130. So I think it's sort of limited to 130 electronically, because it doesn't seem to want to go over that. What else can I tell you about this bike? So yeah, riding wise, it's fantastic. It's got obviously twin radial mounted calipers, Tokiko, with what are these millimeters on these discs? It doesn't say. I don't know what the tech specs for the discs are, but they're plenty to stop this bike. The brakes are awesome. Gearbox on this bike isn't as smooth as the Africa Twin, I wouldn't say. This has got a few more miles on it than the Africa Twin. This has done about 7,000-8,000. Africa Twin's done about 5,000-6,000, but this occasionally jumps out of second gear if you're really hard on the acceleration and brutal on the shift. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's an issue with this bike specifically, or whether this has just had a bad start of its life. I'm not the first person that's ridden this bike, So yeah, it's I'm not sure why it does that, but if you just ride it normally like a normal human being would, it's absolutely fine. And it only rarely does it if I'm really brutal with it, sort of. Yeah, but that's just something worth mentioning. I think it's truly specifically to this bike. I don't think another V-Strom would do that. I think this has had a hard start to its life, so might be why it jumps out of gear. It's got all the usual rider aids on it. I'll just turn the ignition on. It's a nice LCD screen. Gives you the Suzuki logo, and then you've got all your basic info, your gear position or gear selector. We're in neutral now. I can put it into 2, or it would go into 1 if it was in the right position, but anyway, yeah, it's in neutral now. You've got your fuel level, mileage 8,000 miles, distance till empty 95 miles. You've got your trip, miles per gallon average when it's running, time, air temp, and then your RPM, coolant temp here. Suzuki drive mode selector, it's in B currently. There apparently doesn't seem to be much difference between A and B. C is a lot more off-road orientated, I believe, but I haven't actually played with this much. I've turned the TC off on this, so TC off, and it says TC warning light. TC is illuminated there, just to remind you that it is off, because that's how I like my TC. It does wheelie quite nicely with TC off. You sort of have to tell it. If you're a bit hard from a standstill and let the clutch out too much, it will come up, but generally it does stay down. You do get some slight wobble through the handlebars under hard gear changes, full throttle gear changes, etc. when the front goes a bit light, or if the weight goes off the front a bit, depending on the road position where you're on the road, it sometimes they do wobble a bit. Now, I only figured this out the other night. It just so happens that the bike that this engine originally was in, the TL1000, which is an absolute monster, also nicknamed the Widowmaker, due to the fact that it was a bit leery and used to do the exact same thing, as in the bars would shake during big hard accelerations, for example. It sort of made me think that potentially there's some links between. Sorry, some idiots just pulled up, blasting some stupid music. So anyway, yeah, as I was saying, the fact that this lump comes out the TL1000 and this also wobbles under acceleration really does show how close it links to the TL1000, because the TL1000 used to do the same thing. Why it was called the Widowmaker. Used to get big tank slappers on him. I've not had a big tank slapper on this, but it does wobble when you change gear. So yeah, very closely linked to the TL1000 there. Not in a positive way, but like I say, it's nothing dangerous or unstable, but the Africa Twin never ever wobbles in any way, shape or form, and I just found it a bit weird that this does, even though it's got a smaller front wheel. So yeah, that's a bit of a strange one, but you might see that when I take you on a ride. So I'll stop waffling now and try and keep it back to the basics. Obviously, big V twin, 1000cc. We'll go back to the dash because that's what I was talking about. Nice clear dash. The thing that was funny here are the high beams that I didn't really couldn't figure out straight away. To get your high beam on, you actually put the pass. This is normally pass, so that puts your full beam on, and to get your full beam on continuously, you have to push it out. I've not seen that on a bike before. Other nice feature on this bike is the one touch start system. So this is in the off position, that's in the run position, and if you just go tap it literally just starts straight up. So that's a nice little feature. It doesn't really save you much time, probably saves you about 0.05 milliseconds each time you start the bike, but it is nice to be able to just sort of be wheeling your bike backwards and then just tap that as you're moving the bike backwards, and it just fires up, as you're moving it around. It's kind of a nice little feature, and whenever I go back onto the Africa Twin, I do find myself just tapping it, just going tap, and it just goes and doesn't start, and I'm like, huh? Oh yeah, wait, I've got to hold it. So yeah, even that seemed pointless at the time, now I'm actually starting to like that. Apart from that, I don't really think there's much to say. The headlight, nighttime riding, the headlight is just bright enough. I saw some reviewers say that it was better than the Africa Twin, and that's complete nonsense. It's way worse than the Africa Twin. The Africa Twin headlight is awesome. Like, it lights up the entire road in front of you just on low beam. A really nice spread of light. This, it's okay, but it's nowhere near as good as the Africa Twin. So not a great headlight. In fact, when you're accelerating, the beam's so narrow that when you accelerate, it goes up and down. You know, in your line, it goes sort of, the beam will go up and down. So on a really dark road with no lights, you find yourself not wanting to accelerate too hard because it lifts the front beam up too much and you can't see the road. It's not a very it doesn't put a lot of light on the road. It's not a great headlight, to be honest, the more I think of it. Suspension's great, real plush. It's firm enough for the road to be riding really hard. I can push this as hard as I'd push a superbike, and it doesn't miss a beat. Doesn't skip out. I've not had the back end come out really at all, even though it's got traction control off. Even in slightly moist conditions, these are new tyres. They're Bridgestone, something. Don't know what they are, but Battleaxe something. But yeah, they're decent. These are decent tyres actually. But yeah, no, you can push it really hard. Ride's really nice. Good feedback through the brakes. ABS system's good. It never had the back lock up. You can get a bit squirmy if you change down too much on the back. You know, too high in the revs on the back, and you get some engine brake, and it just go a little bit squirrely, but kind of nice. Other than that, yeah, ergonomically speaking, when you get on the bike and you just stand on it, the one thing I don't like is the pegs seem to just stick straight into the side of your legs. Now on the Africa Twin, that doesn't seem to be that much of an issue. They seem to be further back, so you can sort of easily stand up with your legs in front, with your legs by the side. On the V-Strom, they're slightly in a slightly different position, and they're also a bit higher. So yeah, just not as comfy, not as nice positioned as the Africa Twin. But again, this is nothing like the Africa Twin. It's not an adventure bike, it's a road bike really, with plusher suspension. So it feels more superbike position to me. It feels more like I'm used to, because I've never really had an adventure bike before. I've only ever had big sports bikes, GSXRs, Fireblades, stuff like that. So the Africa Twin's the first adventure bike I've ever had, and going from that to this, they just feel completely different. The Africa Twin is much softer compared to this. The Africa Twin is a true off-road bike that just happens to be phenomenal on road. This is a road bike that's been made to have a few slight gravel road capabilities, sort of thing. But yeah, other than that, no, this is a true road bike. For me, so is the Africa Twin. I'm never taking the Africa Twin off-road. I took it off-road once, regretted it, because it was so big and I was in soft sand. It was just hard to manoeuvre, and as soon as I took it in sand, I had to take it home, clean the chain, get all the grit out of the chain. And as a road bike rider, that's just something I'm not used to doing or wanting to do continuously. I try and keep my bikes as clean as possible. This bike's an exception, because this is actually on loan to me, and this bike's going back to its original home very soon. So I've not had to wash this. I've just been thrashing it, to be honest. So yeah, it's been nice to have this while I've got the Africa Twin, just as a comparison. So I wanted to do a video on this before it goes, and just yeah, give you guys a brief tour. There's not just going to be car videos on this channel. We're going to be coming with a lot of bike videos as well. We've got, like I said, an Africa Twin to review. I've got a Suzuki Hayabusa to review as well, and some other bikes, and some other special cars still as well. So yeah, try and keep it interesting for you guys. So I'll quit waffling now. The audio is going to get really bad shortly, because we're going to be going for a quick ride, but we'll go on a quick 2-3 minute ride, something like that, give you some footage of the ride, show you how it rides, and then yeah, we'll probably end the video there and then pick it up with another review very soon. Okay, right, I'm just going to have to stop this video now and then get the camera in its case, chest strap, mount, etc., and then carry on filming. Sorry guys, just as I was about to set off, I realised there's a few things I didn't mention about this bike. So yeah, with regards to the engine, it sounds really nice. It's a completely different sound to the Africa Twin, because it's obviously a V-twin and not a 270-degree cranked parallel twin, which the Africa Twin is. This engine initially, I didn't really like the sound of it, but it's really grown on me now, and other people have complimented on the sound of this bike, that it sounds really good. there's actually more induction noise on this bike than there is exhaust noise. You hear more of the intake than you do the exhaust, the standard can. That's because obviously Suzuki happen to know a thing or two about ram air induction. So with the S-Rads and the Hayabusas, etc., all having years and years of research and development thrown into the Suzuki Ram Air Direct system, which basically scoops air up into the front, pressurizes it, and basically sort of works as like a turbo effect almost. And at high RPM they get so much power, it's just phenomenal. But that also, as a byproduct of that, is the induction noise, which you hear, especially on the S-Rads, Hayabusa. You hear this just big roar of just air being sucked in the front, and it sometimes sounds better than the exhaust, to be honest. It can do on certain cars and it does on certain bikes, and on this bike it sounds awesome. I actually prefer the induction noise than the exhaust noise on this bike. And cars, when they hear you coming down the road, they hear the induction noise first before they hear the exhaust, and they tend to move out the way quick when you open this up behind them. So yeah, it doesn't half roar. So yeah, plenty of power, like I said. Comes in first off throttle very easily, second off the clutch very easily. If you get a little bump in the road and get it in the right rev range in second and just give it a little gas, it will come up nicely. Yeah, no, it's a real nice bike to ride fast. You can ride it fast, very stably, very smoothly, and very comfortably. Other than that, I'm sure there's loads of stuff I'm missing out here. Price wise, I think they are about £11,000 upwards to about 15 for the higher spec ones. They do obviously the adventure enduro type one. This is more the road version. It's got a 19-inch front wheel, 17-inch rear. Africa Twin's got a 21-inch front wheel and 18-inch rear, something like that. I can't exactly quite remember. I will put some of the technical specs up in the description below. But I'm sure there's loads I've forgotten to mention about this bike. But yeah, wind protection. Yeah, wind protection is pretty good on this actually. Even though it's not a huge screen, it does give you plenty of wind protection. And at night, if you're riding with your helmet up, you can get away with not having any glasses on and just ducking your head down behind the screen slightly, and it just gives your eyes plenty of protection from the wind. So you can ride without glasses or a visor if you really needed to. And yeah, I don't really know what else there is to say about it, apart from let's take it for a spin. Right, I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to hear me as you're in a waterproof case. Might have to throw some of the raw audio over this, but get started. See how it goes. Not sure if you guys can hear me, but did you see the wobble then? 4th, 5th and 6th, hard changes. And there we go, people. That was the little test ride. Not sure how much of that you could see or hear, but just wanted to show you some, you know, pinning it through the gears just to see what sort of acceleration it had in relative to other traffic. We obviously were sticking to all the road laws and rules during that test ride. So yeah, I don't really know what else I can say about this bike. I'm sure you saw it wobbling slightly then before between gear changes. That was just me literally changing gear as high as at high RPM and pinning it straight after the gear change, and it would keep the front light, and just handlebars would just do that. It feels completely manageable, doesn't feel scary at all. As you can see, I was just powering through it and it just carried on just doing it. I was I had my hands on the bars very lightly, didn't want to try and I wanted the bike to move underneath me naturally. I don't want to try and force it to do anything it doesn't want to do. And it felt completely stable and fine. So I'm not sure if that would be down to suspension setup, tyre pressures. I've had this before. I used to work for Honda motorcycles, and we had lots of other bikes in, and occasionally we'd have like KTMs in and stuff like that as demo bikes. And I remember on a KTM 1390, 1290, something like that. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but that would wobble under hard gear changes as well, but that was scary, unmanageable, as in it felt dangerous, and I think sometimes it can be attributed to tyre pressures and stuff like that, but it might be completely normal this bike, and again I might be riding it like a bit of a hooligan, so it may well not be designed to be ridden as hard as I'm riding it, but you know, I'm not really doing anything silly on it. I'm just using all the revs, changing gear as you would, and then applying power straight away, and it tends to do that. I've noticed that a few times, and like I say, the Africa Twin doesn't do that at all. So yeah, other than that, I don't really know what to say. I do like this bike. I would recommend it. If I had a spare £10,000, I'd definitely buy one in addition to the Africa Twin, just because I really like the Africa Twin. I don't know why, I just loved it ever since it's come out. Sorry, I do know why. It's a great bike, rides fantastic, super comfy, amazing on fuel, great sound. Ergonomics are awesome. It literally doesn't feel like you're riding a bike, it's like you're sat on a sofa and it's just floating you down the road. It's effortless to ride. Great fun when you push it hard as well. As I say, review on that coming up soon, but yeah, I'd recommend one of these to anyone really. Initially I didn't like it, but it's grown on me and I can see its purpose now. It's not an adventure bike, it's a road bike. It's for getting you to and from work way faster than you could on a super bike. There's not a super bike rider in the world that could keep up with me in a UK city centre with me on this and them on. They can be on whatever they want, S1000, R6, R1, whatever they want, a Hayabusa. You won't keep up with me on this. You just won't. The way you can just lean this and flick it through and soak up the bumps and just bash over speed bumps and jump the thing basically. You're not keeping up on a super bike, not in town anyway. As soon as you get on the motorway, yeah, we won't see you. But no, the get up and go with this, it's awesome. Great bikes, and I as being a long-term super bike owner, rider for the last 20 odd years, even longer, I now understand what these bikes are about. So yeah, it's I hope that sort of sums up this review, and that I've not left any interesting parts out. Any questions, just put them in the comments below, and we'll be back soon with another bike review. Thanks for watching.